annual convention such as the presentations, the regulation, in the 3-hour presentation, you will be able to have valuable knowledge and experience and takeaways following the task presentation. There are considerations or concerns about the presentation. Please feel free to leave them in the chat box so that we can gather the question for easy response in 5 or 10 minutes Q&A session. We gladly welcome Dr. Fazil Anvari and Ms. Trần Thị Minh Hiền from Australia. In 30 minutes, parallel lies our presentation, which is entitled Digital, ELT, and Reflective Learning, a case study of students from rural areas of Vietnam. About our presenters, Dr. Fazil Anvari is a researcher and an educational consultant, and Mrs. Trần Thị Minh Hiền is an author, an educator, and a researcher. They have taught students from rural areas in Vietnam since 2017. Please welcome Dr. Fazil Anvari and Ms. Trần Thị Minh Hiền.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Today, me, Minh Hiền, and here Fashi, we will speak about the digital ELT and reflective learning. It's a case study of students from rural area of Vietnam. And I will start first. We're teaching the student mainly from regional university. The regional students, they have a common problem that they are away from resources such as fluent speakers of foreign language. They often less than average income group because most of the better of students, they tend to go to major cities like Hanoi, Saigon, or Da Nang, or Huế, or Nha Trang. So the regional students, they generally less not as good. That's what I can say. They also lack of models, family and general society in general. Now, in the regional universities, normally the students who enroll there are rural students. So these rural students, they face overcrowded classrooms. They also poor socioeconomic background, and because of that, university fees are a big part of their budgets, as well as accommodation and food. They are also expensive for them. And on top of it, because they come from rural, so they have a sense of isolation. And again, they don't lack of role models and learned heroes. On top of all this, the last few years, because of the pandemic, COVID-19, is affect everybody, but rural students been affected a lot more. Because of the lockdown, travel restriction, a lot of teaching become online teaching learning. So these students have to face, many of them actually face the first time to do online study. And because they are come from the background rural, so they also lack of access to technology. When I'm saying technology, I'm talking about reliable internet, software equipment, and a good stream for study. And usually students lack of it. And also lack of the familiarity with how to use this technology. One thing we noticed, we've been teaching this to the students at Quảng Nam University now for 5 years online. We noticed that they lack also knowledge of grammar. And we notice also, because they study English, right? So they follow a Western model teaching, and Western model teaching emphasize grammar teaching, actually say that it's not essential. The teaching of the English people from English speaking tend to expect the student to learn language naturally. They expect the student to read a lot, write a lot, and listen. And this activity need motivation and with time and resource. So for many years, Fashi and I often ask a question of how is it that practice among rural and regional students in Vietnam. We run, as I said, we run this course since 2018, and our course cover 4 channels: meaning focused input, meaning focused output, language focused learning, and fluency development. While we're teaching them also grammar, and the important thing that we introduce is reflective learning. Nation and Yaman motto define the 4 channel like this. Meaning focused input involves the learner an opportunity to learn from listening and reading. Meaning focused output involves learning through speaking and writing. Language focused learning involves a deliberated focus on language features such as pronunciation, spelling, grammar, vocabulary, and so on. Fluencies involve making the best use of whatever they already know. Give them the opportunity to practice fluency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing, so that they can able to receive and produce language at a reasonable rate. Like I said, we introduce also, while teaching them English, we also introduce them a concept of reflection. The reason is that an essential element of learning is reflection. Reflection can turn an experience into knowledge. And in order to teach them reflection, we use a framework. We have actually developed the framework in 2013. I put a paper there, so if you wish to know more, you can read the paper that we presented in Saigon in 2013. The student, basically reflection means the student will have to be required to write and later rewrite their own work and also their peers' passages. So they were required to reflect on their own writing, peer review, and comments on each other's writings. On our part, our requirement on our part toward the student is that we scaffolding them, because we know this concept is new, so we scaffolding them slowly. We're very patient. We give them time, we give them encouragement. When we give them feedback, we also give a personal touch to each of the students. And we're very flexible. The reason we're very flexible is because all these students who attend our course, they do it outside the university syllabus. It's not part of their university. And also, so because of that, they have a lot of other commitments. So our assignment for them, we give them not a set deadline, we're flexible, depend on their circumstances. And one thing about course material is relating to them so that they can use that knowledge that they gain through our teaching. One of the major issues that become very obvious when we interact with the student was that their lack of knowledge of grammar. And we find out the rural and regional students, their lack of resource as well lack of technology are major impediments for them. On top of all that, most of our students actually have to work. They work as well they study, so they have limited time of learning. So apart from reflective thinking, we also have to teach them basic English, because we taught actually first year student and second year. So their English, especially the first year one, is very basic. So we have to teach them simple sentence. We taught them all in English. Sometimes I just give them some guidance Vietnamese, but all the way in English. Now I introduce Fashi so that he will talk through the course we're teaching for the past 2 years, 2021 and 2022.
Thank you. Yeah. The students actually were mainly from rural areas, as mentioned before, and they were from Nguyen Institute classes at Kongnam University. They participated as extracurricular activities. They were taught by us from Australia. So we just interacted them online remotely. We ran 2 courses at 2 different levels. And for all our research, we use data from students who gave consent for research and publication of papers. 10 students actively participated and completed the course, and 5 of them were first-year students, all female. They completed one course during 2022, which was this year. They just finished that. And there were 5 students who actually did 2 courses with us. One course they did in 2021, and this year they did the advanced level course. We noticed that when analyzing all the data that we are getting from the students, from the writing students, there are some very common grammatical mistakes that they make. One of the obvious one was that the word I, they often wrote it in lowercase, and that made it difficult to read the passages. Even though I referring to the pronoun, first person pronoun. So instead of putting that as a capital, they do it often in lowercase. Punctuation was another big problem area because many students, they put a lot of spaces before or after punctuations or even both sides. And they use a lot of punctuations, and what they do is that they replace commas with full stops back and forth. So, and we noticed that the students only know about comma and full stop and nothing else as far as punctuation goes. They wrote almost a whole paragraph in one sentence. That means that they had run-on sentences, and they use wrong usage of verbs and pronouns often in the sentence, so that one sentence, some part is expressed in past tense, some part would be expressed in present tense. This is what we show is that one student at the beginning of the course, this is what she had actually prepared for one of the assignments. As you can see, it's a mixed verb tenses, number and person, where it says I and it says yourself. And it has run-on sentences and the same mistake, a common mistake that put I in lowercase. Now, the same student, when we looked at her assignment at the end of the course, this is what she wrote. And as you can see, she wrote long sentences, she wrote complex sentences. And even though there are some errors in the sentences, but it's quite understandable, she deliberately avoided run-on sentences. And her pronoun, actually, she made sure that, she spelled it correctly. And also, if you notice, her punctuation improved a lot. The other aspect that actually we started practicing with was introducing video as a teaching mechanism. So it wasn't just textual material, but some lessons were in textual materials. Some lessons we provided as a video, a short video that they either listened to or actually watched it. And then this was to give them practice with oral explanation and how to listen and how to also be able to accept. We required them to do an oracy assignment, which was that required at the end of the lesson. They prepared a video of one of the lessons that they actually prepared in textual format. And many students responded to that. This was a preliminary times that we introduced the concept. We were wondering how the student would respond, but actually response was quite well to video format as a medium of presentation. Of course, we need to do more research to assure that, what is really a good or best medium of presentation for teaching purposes. This is an example of one of the students who prepared an assignment in oracy. As you can see, the student prepared this as this video based on the earlier textual assignment that she had submitted. she subtext for her videos, and also we give them knowledge of how to critique oral presentation. Then what we did was that put all the videos available for other students to comment on. This was not available to public, only to the students that were enrolled in the class. The other issues that we concentrated during our teaching process was reflective method, because as part of that, we had to teach them to value peer review, because most students did not like to be critiqued by their colleagues or by the fellow students, and they often receive criticism, but they didn't want to do that. So we had to teach them also how to acknowledge work of others, in other words, do referencing and bibliography. As part of the critique, we have to teach them not to use negative word, not to say this assignment is bad, but also give value to the positive aspect, like even presenting something for criticism or putting material online. That itself is very important first step. Even though it has a lot of mistake, doesn't matter. It is very important that the student has done that. They had to acknowledge what was done well and also tell the reason, but also items that need to improve and why it was needed. But also for video material, there was different set of critiquing that was required, and they learned it all that. On top of that, to encourage them in their studies, we provide Zoom meetings with the students, and that helped them out to actually to feel encouraged that they are not isolated. So in conclusion, we could say that the student, to overcome common grammatical mistake, that is very important. Flexibility is another very important. So anybody teaching student rural areas has to consider that. And also in any design of the course, you have to consider that they don't have access to technology. Medium of teaching oral, to encourage them to do oral teaching, is good to present them with video material, and reflective training, which is good, and especially teach them to write and rewrite paragraphs so that they can improve upon what they have written in the past. And also they have to learn to critique each other's work positively. Then personal touch, very important for the rural areas. And then relevance of knowledge taught. It's very important that the knowledge that they learn, they can use it in their own teaching, in their own day-to-day life. In other words, it was important. Now,
Thank you. This is our email if you wish to contact us. And as this slide, we acknowledge and we thank Miss HaNguyen from Quảng Nam University and 2 class of her students attending the online study with us in 2021 and 2022. Now, if you have any questions, please we will try to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, we
thank
would
you.
like to share our reason for your question. Let me have
Is that a chat or something?